This is Upfront, where we have quick conversations about how to build a stronger organization by connecting with your frontline team who are critical to your success, but are often hard to reach and engage. Our guests are thought leaders who share real-life experiences and insights that you can actually put to work. No fluff, just real stuff at Upfront. I'm your host, Sonia Safaban at Trivi, an easy AI-driven messaging and feedback tool with no apps or logins required. Your frontline will love Trivi, and your leaders will thrive with real-time insights and next steps. You can find information on how to connect with us in the show notes. Now, let's get on with our show. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Mehmet Genc, Director of Operations in Europe at Turner Construction Company. Welcome to Upfront, Mehmet. So great to have you here.
Great to be here, Sonia. Thanks for having me. Hi, folks.
Absolutely. Let's start by telling us a little bit about yourself and Turner Construction Company, please.
Sure. Turner is the largest builder in the United States. Annually, we do about $30 billion worth of work. We have over 15,000 of extremely talented architects and engineers, our direct payroll people who oversee hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of work, billions of dollars of work, actually hundreds and thousands worth of direct frontline employees. We are 124 years old company. We operate globally as well. We act as project management company, consultancy company in different continents outside of United States. And I love working with my company. Prior to joining to Turner and start working in Europe, I worked in the United States in Washington, D.C. area for 14 years on executive roles for another awesome company. At the time, competitor to actually Turner, and still is. And I've delivered major complex projects, grow the organization, contributed to growth in Washington, D.C. area for 14 years again. And then the last 14 years, other exciting projects in Europe again. Most recently, I've been overseeing several projects, but the most interesting for me is the largest bank of Turkey. It's called Ziraat Bank. With a team of 40-50 people at peak. We delivered about $1 billion headquarters to this bank. The headquarters designed by Kohn Pedersen Fox. And at peak, you had over 2,000 frontline employees working in the construction field for this major project. And we have other upcoming important projects in the pipeline. Keep developing people, engaging with our frontline workers, getting mutual respect to each other. That's my motto. And that's what makes me personally ticking and my organization. So that's about me and about Turner a little bit, Sonia.
That's fantastic. You know, I know when we were talking, you were telling me about this bank, right? I mean, I think it's in Istanbul, right? It's and it has big towers. I mean, you have it looks a little bit like the financial district, maybe in New York. I'm going to New York City next week for an event at the stock exchange, and I was just when you were telling me about that, I was wondering. I love Istanbul. I don't know that I've been to the financial district necessarily, but I was thinking, how close is that to the look and feel of New York City financial district, maybe?
Yeah, well, right on. Yes, Ziraat Bank, being the largest bank headquarters, is situated in a major complex called Istanbul Finance Center, which hosts several banks. It is supposed to become the hub. The aim is to have it become another financial center serving between several different continents. This finance center is going to employ finance professionals approximately up to 50,000 people will be working in this major complex. Overall, building this complex, we had up to 10,000 frontline workers working in the construction field. So the whole concept is actually bigger. Istanbul itself is a fantastic city, where I'm originally from, but again, I went to States for studying and remained there for 14 years, but came back last several years to Istanbul. Very vibe city. I've been to New York several times alone. I love New York as well, like many others. Istanbul is a very cool city as well, though. Very hyper, energy filled. It's the only city that spans in between two in the world that spans in between two different continents.
Yes.
The water channel, Bosphorus. So beautiful views. Beautiful views, safe. So anyone who gets an opportunity to visit Istanbul, I would highly encourage to come and visit Istanbul. They would have fun.
So there is a little unplanned advertising for Istanbul. I would totally back that. I totally agree with you. And Turkish people, I think, are very cool and very nice. I've always enjoyed visiting. But you have, great background, obviously, a great experience in construction. And in construction industry in general, safety is a big deal, right? And you were sharing that Turner is really known for its strong safety culture.
Yes.
What are some of the practices you've implemented that have been most effective in keeping safety really front and center across such large, complex projects where many of your frontline are not directly your own employees, right? Even they're contractors that Turner is overseeing for the owners. How do you kind of keep that front and center, the safety?
Well, let me think about the complex projects that we are proud to take part on. I think we strongly believe the safest projects are usually the best planned projects, in advance when it comes to safety as well. For our frontline workers, especially, they are the most closest to the risk, right? So most of the safety risks are directly connected to operational instability, such as congestion in the field, poor sequencing of work, rushed activities sometimes, logistical conflict. So that's why we integrate safety directly into operational planning ahead of time before we start building anything. Through our lean practices, like pool planning that we implement, daily coordination meetings, visual management is huge, we have found, especially on major complex projects supporting our frontline workers. I think safety should become on the major projects workflow itself. It should not be considered as an additional layer, as an obstacle to the work. It should be part of planning work, I believe.
That's an interesting way to think about it, right? I mean, a lot of times you have a separate safety organization, right? And then you have this, the planning part of the team. And you're right, instead of having another layer, that's a very interesting way to think of it, to have a more integrated as part of the planning process, so that every step of the planning has this, the safety lens on when you're doing that planning. So, right. Given that, I mean, where do you see, with everything you have done that you just mentioned, where do you see the biggest opportunity to strengthen how, especially the safety concerns or near misses are surfaced and addressed in real time, right? Because a lot of times people may see a loose cable lying somewhere, a ladder maybe that was just left over from the last, task and hasn't been removed yet, or, something else that could be a safety concern. But how do you surface those? How do you make sure that most of those get into you have a great system, I'm sure, but then when people are on the job, right, they're doing the work, how do you make sure that those concerns are surfaced and addressed in real time?
One of our biggest challenges. So right on question. Indeed, one of our biggest challenges, because in my opinion, the biggest risk on the project is not the hazard that you know already. It's the hazard people stop talking about, or that you don't know in real time. Because when we know the hazard, I mean, there's no question that our turnover workforces will address it immediately. But, how do we ensure, as you said, how do we keep improving ourselves to get to know all hazards that's out there that one may not be able to see, but the other is able to see? And how do we encourage people to report it to them as soon as they realize something? So they need to feel psychologically safe, Sonia. Okay, all of our frontline workers, they need to feel psychologically safe. If somebody reports something, a mistake or a hazard, and this was to become a disciplinary action or some dismotivational factor in the organization, they won't report to you. So it's very important that that we do as Turner and all the other organizations that I believe should remove the fear from reporting hazards by our and people's frontline workers. So they need to feel good about it. So they don't need to be scared or be in fear to report something when they see it, and on lifetime. Okay. Second thing I feel like is important. So we encourage them. There is no fear, guys. Through our mechanism systems, it's a two-way communication. I'm not there to just inspect you. I'm there to respect you. You are the ones who are using our tools and methods the best. You're closest to the hazard. You know better than I do on many things. So tell me, okay? So that's that part. Okay, well, they start telling me. The response time is very important. How quickly. So our frontline workers tell us about stuff. They need to feel and realize and see us as their valuable managers and responsible managers. We are responding to those issues immediately, very quickly. So in short, 2 words, response time is very important to these hazards. So leadership, visibility, responsibility, taking care of those people. I hear something. Organizations need to have mechanisms and methods to be able to respond to these hazards that are reported to them quickly, immediately. That's what keeps them ticking. Frontline and employees they feel like they keep engaged. So that is important.
Absolutely. No, great points. I mean, first and foremost, make sure that they feel safe and they do report it. But then once they report it, right, make sure that somebody does something about it so they can see and be encouraged. I mean, you and I have both been on the front line ourselves, and there is nothing more demotivating, right, than you report something, you talk about something, and then days and weeks go by and there is no visible evidence. And sometimes, people do something about it, but nobody knows that something has been done about it, right?
Right.
I think I shared with you, I was in a quality role for a number of years. And during that time when we were investigating incidents, right? I mean, when you're in a quality role, all you look at is the bad stuff that happened. And every single time, we realized there was always somebody somewhere that knew. And either they, like you said, they didn't feel comfortable sharing it, or they weren't sure it was important, or how to even, who to report it to, or they told somebody and that somebody didn't know what to do about it, or let it slip, or forgot it, or didn't communicate it effectively or in a timely manner. So it gets really difficult, especially when you have complex and distributed environments like you have. How do you recommend that leaders think about communications, because some of this is also just pure communication. A lot of it happens verbally, right? So once the frontline teams feel empowered and speak up, but what are some communication strategies where you can make sure that things don't get lost, or they don't get forgotten, or potentially not really communicated to the right teams, effectively, right? Because somebody, I may tell you something, you tell somebody else, and by the time it gets to the right person that needs to deal with it, it may not even be, the original idea or issue that was relayed may not even be there anymore. So how do you think about the communications on the front line, especially with complex projects and very distributed projects.
Right. I think the biggest value that comes to my mind right on is respect. Okay, you gotta respect to these frontline workers. Again, who doesn't appreciate to be respected, to keep speaking up and tell you the things. So when it comes to communicating properly, it's gotta be a two-way communication. So as the frontline workers feel heard, valued, and respected, listened up, they will keep coming to you. You need to make them part of the processes. Again, when it comes to framing deck, pouring concrete, nobody knows better than those foremen and those employees. So you need to make sure they feel valued, listened up, and their ideas are evaluated, considered, become part of the processes. That's how you keep them got bought into ensuring, as those processes are established, implementing them properly. So two-way communication is very important with the frontline workers. You gotta always remember that you're not there to just direct them to do something. You are actually there to listen to them, value their opinions, and respect them. So that's, I think, it's a huge part of field communication, frontline communication engagement. Respect is huge, in my humble opinion. And again, as frontline workers and people report things to you, you need to have good mechanisms with your mid leadership, senior leadership, to be able to respond to these as soon as possible. Leadership visibility is critical to maintain that two-way communication and keeping our frontline workers engaged, to keep them safe. At the end of the day, again, they are the closest to hazards, and we wanna send them back to their homes, to their loved ones, the way they arrive to our job sites. That's the most important thing. That's because if we can't do that, that's one thing that we are not able to recover. Everything else can be recoverable. That's one thing that we can't recover. If God forbid we fail to not be able to send someone back to their loved ones at the end of the day, the way that he arrived at our job site. So we as leaders should be living with those values, and we all have families, values, and loved ones. So it's very important to respect to those frontline workers, listen up to them, and again, keep them active. And always remember, they're not part of the business. They are the business.
That's a very good way to put it, right? They are the business. And I think you make a great point about respect. Part of that respect is putting ourselves in their shoes, right? I mean, I think the part of my career when, as an engineer, I was a manufacturing engineer and then a quality engineer, that was really formative. As I went on to other roles, I always reflected back. It gave me some deep understanding, which of course I know you have too, but sometimes leaders may not have themselves been in those roles, or it may be another function like HR or some other function that interacts and impacts the front line, but haven't been on the front line themselves. It's really important to think of, okay, when this man or woman, is on the line or is on the job site, and they're out in the open, in the elements a lot of times, they're doing their work. If they want to report something, how do they do that? How do they actually do that? If they have to go find somebody else, tell them. If they have to go, find a kiosk and go log in, remember their password, their system. I mean, part of respect is respecting their lifestyle, and how they are working, and thinking of the tools we give them, right? I mean, how easy it is for them to communicate that in a way that is effective and is timely. And so I think when you say respect, I just think of all of the manifestations of respect, right? I mean, you have make a great point, but how does a frontline employee know that they're respected? A big part of it is when there is a response to it, it's timely, but a part of it also is just begins when they want to say something, when they have an input. How do they make that input known, right? And so all of that together, I think, goes to your great points you made about create psychological safety, make it easy for them to think of their life, on the line, and how, or at the job site, and how we can make it easier for them to do the things that we ask of them, and then of course respond to it, and go back and make sure that they know that whatever input they had, that it was acted upon. But all of this, I think, are great points. Mehmet, you have incredible background. I've really enjoyed this. I know our audience will too. I thank you again for joining me on this Upfront podcast. For our audience, if this episode has been helpful, please find us on Spotify and on YouTube to listen to more episodes, and also watch it now on video and share it with others. If you need help connecting with your frontline or deskless employees, see the show notes for information on how to connect with us at Trivy, or just email us at upfront@gotrivy.com. That's upfront@gotrivy.com. Bye for now. Till the next episode.